These men, some were hung on the wall with their stomachs ripped open, some were tied tightly to the bed and had their faces roasted with electric shocks, some had their anacondas crushed with electric clamps, and some were drowned in toilet bowls full of feces. The one who did these things was a slender 20-year-old girl. Why could this young girl be so cruel? It all started with Katie, a waitress in New York. Although life was still difficult, she always dreamed of becoming a famous model. Because of her hot and eye-catching figure, Katie often took photos to find opportunities for herself. However, her photos didn't meet expectations and were often rejected. At work, she was introduced by a colleague to a photographer who could exploit her beauty, but the cost was tens of thousands of dollars a day, which was far beyond Katie's ability to pay. So she turned to free photographers. Of course, that came with her having to let them use her images at will. Katie lived in a cheap motel room, where rats were friendly neighbors with residents, and having to hear neighbors cursing each other was a specialty of this place. That's why Katie always dreamed of success and leaving there. So despite many failures, she never gave up on her dream. Today, as usual, after getting off work, Katie took a phone number of a photographer, hoping to have him take photos for her. The other party quickly responded. However, they asked her to send a photo first for them to consider. If it was good, they would reply to her. Katie quickly sent a portrait photo of herself with her beautiful face. She quickly read the other party's agreement. The next day, according to the appointment, she came to this place for her first photo shoot. This was a shabby photo studio for models entering the profession for the first time, and Katie was one of them. Here, there were several photographer brothers working together. The main photographer for her was named Ivan, and the two assistants were Georgie and Nikolay. Seeing Katie arrive, he quickly put her to work. After choosing a suitable outfit, she was photographed. Initially, everything went quite smoothly, and the way these guys worked was very professional, making Katie very satisfied. But after a while of shooting, Ivan made a different proposal. He said she was very beautiful, very hot, but still quite safe, so she needed to break the mold. Only then would the photo set impress viewers. He also said that it would be a waste to hide her beauty, she needed to show it to everyone. That was also an opportunity to help her go further in this profession. However, Katie flatly refused that proposal. She was poor and eager to succeed, but not in that way. She knew very well that photographers like Ivan would use girls' photos and put them on black websites to make money. Even though he tried to persuade her and promised not to do that, Katie still flatly refused. She also didn't take any more photos. The next day, while at home, someone knocked on the door. Katie opened the door and was very surprised when the person who came to see her was Georgie. She didn't know how he knew her house, so she was very wary and didn't let him in. But Georgie said that he came here just to give her the photos she took yesterday. He also praised her photos for being very beautiful. Out of politeness, Katie thanked him, but she only stood inside the house and didn't let him in. After receiving the USB containing her photos, she insisted on closing the door. That night, after finishing work, she enjoyed her photos alone and felt very satisfied. It can be said that Katie was very careful when she was alone and had a high sense of vigilance. But when she wanted to take out the trash near the stairs, she thought it wasn't too far, so she didn't close the door. Unexpectedly, this was the source of all the suffering she had to endure later. Everything was unremarkable until late at night when Katie was sleeping. She suddenly had a feeling that someone was watching her. Sure enough, when she woke up, she saw a man sitting at the end of the bed, staring at her. He was none other than Georgie, the guy who came to give her the USB containing her photos during the day. Katie opened the closet and took out the stun gun to attack him. Then she ran to the door, hoping to open it and escape. But when she was about to open it, he woke up, grabbed her, and pulled her inside. He pushed Katie to the floor, then grabbed her hair and repeatedly hit her head, causing her to gradually lose consciousness. At this time, he slowly tied her legs and hands. He also used a cloth to stuff Katie's mouth so she couldn't call for help. Katie tried to struggle and call for help, but now it was midnight, so no one heard her call. Only a close neighbor next door heard a strange noise. He knew Katie was in trouble, so he woke up and went to check, but before he could react, Georgie attacked him with a knife. He stabbed him many times in the stomach, causing the neighbor to fall on the spot. Although he really wanted to save Katie, he was powerless. Georgie saw that the neighbor was no longer able to resist, so he started his sick game. He took off his pants and raped Katie despite her desperate struggles. I really don't dare to tell more details of this part because it's too terrible and haunting. But the more Katie struggled, the more excited he felt. Witnessing Katie being humiliated and unable to help made the neighbor even more painful, but they could only cry in tears and helplessness. Not long after, he also lost too much blood and died on the spot. After satisfying his beastly lust, Georgie began to sober up and realize that his actions had gone too far. So he called his brothers Ivan and Nikolay to help him clean up the aftermath. It seems that this was not his first time, so they were too familiar with this kind of thing. Ivan's way of speaking showed that Georgie had a mental problem, but his problem was always choosing beautiful girls, then approaching, attacking, and raping them. At this time, Ivan began to assign tasks to them because the neighbor had died, so this matter had gone too far. It involved human life, so he began to make an escape plan. First, he rummaged through the kitchen cabinet and took out a few pairs of gloves, then asked them to erase all the traces that Georgie left in the room. After finishing, he approached Katie and took out a pack of sleeping pills. Ivan forced her to swallow all the pills. Although Katie didn't want to and tried to struggle, it was all useless. Ivan squeezed Katie's mouth and forced her to swallow all the pills. Because of the large amount of medicine, after a while, she gradually lost consciousness. Then they took a box to take Katie out of this place. Katie was taken to a strange room surrounded by 4 walls. Her whole body was stripped naked, her hands were chained to a pole, and she couldn't escape. But the worst was yet to come. She was captured by them to be their slave. The second person to humiliate her was Nikolay. At that moment, Georgie appeared. He didn't let Nikolay touch his person, but Nikolay didn't like being stopped like that. He said that Katie was now just a throwaway and even pissed on Katie. So the 2 brothers started fighting. Seeing the 2 younger brothers fighting, Ivan chased them upstairs. Katie was locked up alone. She was desperate to the extreme. Seeing her constantly making noise, the 3 brothers came down again. At this time, Katie had fainted from exhaustion. They poured water on Katie to wake her up. Then they wanted her to clean herself. When Katie resisted and kept screaming, it drove them crazy. Ivan and Nikolay pressed her down and stuffed drugs into Katie's mouth. After finishing, they went outside to wait for the drug to take effect. Katie knew that just screaming like that wouldn't help, it would only make her situation worse. To survive, she had to stay calm. First, she vomited the medicine out of her throat, then lay still, pretending that the medicine had taken effect. After a while, Georgie came into the room and brought her a dress and a set of clothes. When he was about to bring slippers for Katie, she attacked him unexpectedly from behind and knocked him unconscious. Seeing him lying still, Katie climbed through the small window and went outside. She ran out into the street, trying to ask for help from people around her. She kept saying that she was attacked and raped. But when they saw a girl dressed thinly in the cold weather with disheveled hair and speaking English, they didn't understand what she was saying and thought she had mental problems. As a result, no one dared to come forward to help her. Katie was even more desperate. After a while, a police inspector passed by. With his professional eyes, he saw that she seemed to be having problems, so he stopped the car and took her to the police station. Here, Katie learned that they had brought her to Bulgaria. Katie said that she was an American living in New York after being attacked and raped by them. She didn't understand how they could bring her here. Although listening to what Katie said, the detective still felt a little suspicious. He wanted to take her to the hospital to examine her injuries. At that moment, a woman appeared named Anna. She could speak English and claimed to be a member of the Association for the Protection of Women and Children from Sexual Assault. Seeing Katie wary of her, Anna said that she had been like that before, so Anna understood what Katie was going through. To prove what she said was true, she pulled up her sleeves to show Katie her arm with many scars. Seeing that, Katie also trusted Anna. Katie even followed her, not knowing that this woman was the sickest person she had ever met. Anna told Katie that before going to the U.S. Embassy, she wanted to take Katie to her house to get some clothes and some money for Katie to have travel expenses. Seeing Anna being kind and polite, Katie didn't suspect anything. But when she entered the house, Katie knew she had been taken back to the wolf's den. Anna spat in Katie's face and said that she would not allow anyone to harm her family. When Katie tried to struggle to escape, they grabbed her. Katie's despair reached its peak. She could only cry in pain for trusting the wrong person. It turned out that Anna was the mother of the pervert Georgie. She took advantage of the name of the organization to rescue women and children, then found prey like Katie to sell to people like the Ivan brothers to make money. Knowing Katie was being attacked in the basement, Anna just sat on the chair, relaxing and listening to music. After being captured, Katie became a tool of relief for an old man. He was also the father of the 3 Ivan brothers. This time, the 3 sons offered to pray for their father to enjoy. If his 3 sons were sick, number 2, then he was sick number 1. Before humiliating Katie, he used an electric baton and continuously attacked her. According to what he said, doing this would help her get more excited. He used the electric baton to shock all over Katie's body, making her very painful. But the peak of his cruelty and perversion was using the baton to torture her sensitive area. Not stopping there, he switched to humiliating Katie's body. After he satisfied his beastly lust, it was also the time when Katie's body was bloody and exhausted. Ivan went down to clean everything up. He continuously insulted her and said that if she hadn't refused to take photos as he asked that day, she wouldn't have fallen into this situation today. Although being tortured like that, Katie still tried to slap Ivan in the face, but that slap made him retaliate with dozens of punches to her face. Only when she was completely unconscious did he stop. Finally, they began to plan to kill Katie to make her disappear completely. They dug a hole right there, then stripped her clothes and put her in a tightly closed box. Thus the poor girl was thrown into the hole and buried. Despite Katie's earnest pleas for mercy, those pleas were in vain. After burying the ground, they also brushed the carpet and pulled the mattress on top. But they never expected that burying Katie alive would be the thing they would regret most in their lives. After being locked underground, Katie fainted from exhaustion. That night, when she woke up, she thought she was dead but suddenly discovered that the box had been dug up and the lid was opened. Not knowing who did this, it was the only chance to try to escape this place. She tried to grope in the dark and found a way out. Finally, Katie escaped and found some old clothes that people threw away on the street. In hunger, she caught a bird and killed it to regain strength. Knowing she didn't have a passport here, she didn't dare to go out again, so Katie groped and found a cave that led to a nearby church. Katie didn't rush to the embassy but deliberately stayed to take revenge on those who had ruined her life. Katie went to Father Deve's kitchen in the church to steal food. She was caught by Father Deve, but when he offered to help her, Katie completely refused. Her trust was now lost. She didn't want to contact anyone anymore, even the priest. But Deve didn't abandon her. He gave her food and clothes. In the following days, Katie kept wandering around, looking for items to serve her revenge. She found a flashlight, some old batteries, a blender with a still-working power cord, and some other items. She also went to their house, waited for them to leave, then sneaked in to check and took a stack of money. That was the money Anna sold her for. With money in hand, she officially started her revenge. The first person she targeted was Georgie. He was the source of all her misfortunes, so he would be the first to pay the price. That morning, when Georgie was sitting drinking coffee in the street, he suddenly drank something in his coffee cup. When he checked, he was extremely scared because it was the face of a necklace on Katie's neck. He looked around in panic and saw her figure standing on the corner of the street. Thinking he was mistaken, he immediately chased after Katie. When she led Georgie to her basement, he suddenly fell into Katie's hanging noose. When he woke up, Georgie saw that he was naked, his hands were tied, and he was hung high. Before starting his torture, Katie repeated all the words he had made her say before. If he didn't speak, she would use the same knife he used to threaten her and kill the neighbor to torture him. But in this state, Georgie still kept cursing her. This was no different from touching Katie's madness. She didn't give in and used the knife to slash a few lines on his body. Not stopping there, Katie also smeared dirt on the wounds, making Georgie taste the feeling of pain. But she didn't kill Georgie right then. She let him gnaw on the pain in his body. Then Katie continued to find her second prey, who was also the second person who humiliated her, Nikolay. At this time, he was still hugging some girls in the bar. When he finished drinking the glass of wine on the table, after a while, he suddenly felt dizzy. Everything around him became blurry. At that moment, he saw a familiar figure. Thinking he was mistaken, he tried to rub his eyes many times but still saw Katie sitting there, looking at him. The place Katie led him to was the toilet. At this time, the medicine in his body had taken effect. Before, he had pissed on Katie's head, so now she would let him soak in the toilet to enjoy that taste. After letting him drink a lot of water, she made him soak his head in another toilet and finally choked to death by feces. The customers at the bar thought Nikolay was too high on drugs and ate feces to death. After killing Nikolay, Katie returned to the basement to hold Georgie and continued to torture him. She used an iron bar to stab straight into Georgie's old bleeding wound. Despite his fierce screams, it was all useless. She let him taste what despair was like, what it felt like to call for help without anyone helping. However, Katie still didn't let him die immediately. The next person Katie targeted was the old bastard, the one who gave birth to a bunch of sick people, so he shouldn't live too long. While he was praying with his wife in front of God, he always felt someone was watching. When he turned around, he saw Katie standing there. After leading the old man down to the cave, Katie appeared from behind and used a large rock to hit his head. When he woke up, he saw himself lying on a bed, his hands and feet tied tightly and unable to escape. He had previously come up with the cruel torture game with an electric baton, so today what he received was also torture with an electric baton. He also had to know what it felt like to be excited and stimulated, as he had said before. After the whole body stimulation, Katie did not forget to let his stinking mouth taste what stimulation was like. Not stopping there, Katie also used an electric wire to put in his mouth, then turned on the power to let it automatically shock him to death. After a while, the old man's face and body were roasted by the electric current. When she saw that he no longer had any signs of life, Katie stopped. Her next target was the one who brought her to hell for the second time, the woman named Anna. Returning after going out, she saw that her entire house had been ransacked. The terrifying scene made her not believe her eyes. She went down to the basement, where Katie was once held, to check, but unexpectedly, she was attacked from behind and pushed down the tunnel below. When she woke up, Anna was tied up and put in the box where Katie was held. But that was not as terrible as the scene in front of her. Her beloved son was tied to the wall and tortured beyond recognition. Her screams did not wake her son. Finally, Katie closed the lid of the box, leaving her no way to scream. At this time, Father Dave also met a detective, the one who helped Katie on the street before. Dave said that in Katie's eyes, there was only hatred and the intention to take revenge. So he wanted the detective to help her escape from that. When the detective knew where Katie was, he went inside to find out about her situation. Meanwhile, Ivan also returned home. He witnessed the scene in the house and had a premonition that something bad had happened. He immediately ran down to the basement and saw nothing. Then he continued to crawl down to be safe. He also used a gun and carefully checked around while walking. Finally, he came to the room where the two mothers and sons of Georgie were being held and tortured. At this moment, he was attacked from behind and fainted on the spot. When he woke up, he saw himself tied to the bed and unable to move. Anna also woke up. At this time, witnessing her son being tortured, Anna couldn't stand it. She screamed and begged Katie to spare her son. But Katie said that she would make them endure all that she had endured before to let them taste what it was like to live worse than death. Ivan, lying nearby, witnessed the entire revenge scene and was very scared, but he still loudly challenged Katie to respond to what he had done to her. Katie used 2 iron clamps, one connected to an electric motorcycle to clamp his anaconda, the other to clamp his nipple. Then she used the clamp to tear off Ivan's nipple. The other one, she started the motorcycle to clamp his anaconda. He doubled in pain, he could no longer speak loudly but only screamed as the clamp tightened. He was in so much pain that he couldn't bear it anymore, even farting out feces and then fainting. At this moment, the detective arrived and witnessed the entire revenge scene. Ivan in the back also woke up and used a rope to strangle Katie. Seeing that he could not negotiate with him, the detective had to shoot. Although the detective knew that she had caused all of this, he could only apologize to her because if he had believed what she said from the beginning, all these tragedies would not have happened. Escaping death once again, Katie thought that perhaps her revenge could stop here. They have paid the price for the crimes they have committed against her. Her destination now is the U.S. Embassy. Perhaps at this time, no one can stop her from returning to her homeland. The film gives us the message that women, no matter where they are and what they do, are worthy of respect. Those who trample on their bodies deserve to be punished mercilessly. The video has also ended here. If you guys find it interesting, don't forget to leave me a like and subscribe to the channel. Goodbye, and see you again.